Alright, so been listening to a lot of Jim Rohn recently. Jim Rohn says to fill up your cup and then pour out what you got so that you can get more. So this is my attempt to do that. Here is how you learn somebody's name. So before I tell you 3 tips on how to learn somebody's name, I'll tell you a quick story. I started going to a new gym at about 9 months ago, I believe, end of March of 2022. And when I started going to this gym, I didn't know anybody there. So, when I was there, I was gonna be lifting weights. It was my first time lifting, and I wanted to see, all right, well, I know I'm gonna be leveling up in weightlifting. That's one metric of life. What else can I improve on? And I looked and I thought, you know what? I could be better at communicating. I could be better at talking to people, making them feel things. So I set out to have a goal, and that goal was to talk to one new person every day. Just talk to one person every single day. So that being my goal, I started out and I would watch a class on how to be more social, just so that I could literally talk to one person. And as I started talking to more and more people, it started to compound. So, within a month, I've talked to, say I'm there 6 days a week, which was my split, I will have talked to, 24 people or something like that? Yeah, about 24 people. There's 5 weeks in that month, I'll talk to close to 30 people. So the goal was, just to become more social. And one of the challenges was that now I'm talking to 30 people. That's 30 new names. And the next month I'll talk to probably close to 30 new people, another 30 names. And in the month after that, another 30 names. So it's starting to compound a little bit with how many people I'm talking to and how many names I have to remember. So throughout this process, I figured out, you know what? If I want these people to all feel special, I have to remember their names. That's key. So what did I do? 3 ways to remember. You can see my calluses. 3 ways to remember somebody's name. First one, keep a journal. That's probably the hardest one, I would say, is keeping a journal. I noticed that when I would meet somebody new, at the end of the day, I would journal. So I would write their name down in the journal, and that would help me to remember it, because I would picture their face. As I'm picturing their face, I'm thinking about the memory I had with them and what we talked about. So I'd have a little bit of detail about the person that I conversated with that day. And I would just use that to just help remember, keep a record of it, and then keep it moving. So that's the first thing I did. I would write it down in my journal and write a little synopsis of what we talked about that day. That one is pretty simple, but it's hard to implement. Even nowadays, I don't do it as much as I should, but it did help me, and it'll help you too. You'll start to remember names more if you put them in your journal. It's a fact. Second way to remember people's names: use it in that exact situation as soon as they tell you their name. So for example, if I'm talking to a guy and his name is Al, and I'm just introduced to him now. Actually, it's a funny story because there's a guy I'm thinking about. His name is Al. He knows everybody in my gym. Literally everybody. They call him the mayor. They call him the ambassador of the gym that I go to. And he knows everybody. I walked up to him and we would talk sometimes, but he never knew my name. I introduced myself. I said, hey, I'm Andrew Al. It's nice to meet you. You should add one more name to that list that you have. And he's like, Andrew, I got your name. And what did he do? He used my name in that moment, and then he used the third trick. Well, it's not really a trick, but he used the third method, and I'll tell you what the third one is. So the second one is to use it in that exact situation. As soon as they tell you your name, you say, Andrew, nice to meet you. Andrew, where are you going? So now you start to associate it with them. The third thing you can do is think of a person who you've met that has the same name. I want to say 8 out of 10 times you'll run into somebody, and there's somebody somewhere in your brain where you've met somebody with the same name, and you should absolutely use that to help you remember this person's name. At my gym, there's so many Mikes, there's so many Joes, and every time I meet a new one, I'm like, all right, this guy, remember it, associate it with this guy. He also has the same name. Shouldn't be too hard to remember. And then the fourth one, which is a bonus tip, is this. You learn someone's name, you leave the situation. For example, for me, I would learn a lot of people's names when I was in the sauna. That's when I would take the time to actually talk to people. If I didn't get to talk to them while I was on the gym floor, I'd make sure I talk to one person while I'm in the sauna. So I would talk to that person, start a conversation, ask them how's their day going, and we would end up talking for like 5-10 minutes while we're in the sauna afterwards. And what I would do is, once I leave the situation, I repeat their name 5 times. Mike, 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 Mike. While I'm doing it, I'm visualizing their face in my mind. Mike, 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 Mike. And you do that enough times, and it's like you've had that many interactions with that person. So, to sum it up, 1, use a journal, write down their name if you met them in the journal. 2, when you meet the person, use their name in that situation right there and right then. As soon as you meet them, a lot of people will mess this up. They won't say their name. They'll be like, Andrew, nice to meet you. My name is Andrew. Nice to meet you. Craig, for example. Craig will say, my name is Craig. Anyways, just make sure you're using their name in that situation. And then 3, think about another person who has that same name that you've met before. Won't happen every time. You'll meet somebody with a random name like Waleshka, and there's no other Waleshkas you ever met before. That one doesn't apply, obviously, but most times you'll meet people with a name that you've heard of before. Most times, 80% of the time. And then the bonus tip is to say their name repeatedly. Mike, 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 Mike. Until it starts to be ingrained in your mind and you're like, all right, that's Mike. That's who I just met. If you use all of these 4, you will be able to remember anybody's name. If you use 3 of them, you'll remember most people's names. I remember most people's names in my gym, and I left my gym for a month, came back, and everybody's like, where have you been? I've been thinking about you. It's a great feeling. Join the club. Peace.